And at what point, like, I guess, does it evolve from that to like you become more of a fan of hip hop? You become more of a fan of music focusing on the lyrics. Is that like a pivot, like an evolution point for you?
Exactly. Especially when I first heard Jay-Z's 1998 Hard Knock Life album, Volume 2. That's when I was like, okay, this is completely different. The beat, the melodies, the sounds, and it felt it felt like a new world to me, really.
And like,
Yeah.
how are you finding new music outside of your uncle then? Was it like you guys had access to the net, you was running it like that, or was it like people in the streets had it?
What's interesting is that at that time, the internet was not even really a big thing. We're 1990, I would say 97, 98. And most importantly, what we did was we'd simply look at their pictures and remember their names. Like, okay, who was that individual? Who? And some of our peers were already uh, knowing. Well, not necessarily our peers, but people, our neighbors rather. Some of our neighbors were already in tune of hip hop. They knew who were the big guys, who were the ones that were making a lot of noise. That's when we took a lot of took a lot of their information in consideration. Like, okay, that's what his name is. That's whose name his name is. I had a few cousins too who were into hip hop for a long time now. It all blended at the same time, and that's when like the music videos were a lot more prevalent, and people were talking a lot more about, oh, you saw his new music video, you saw what he did in that video, Busta Rhymes, whatnot. So like it all came down at the same time. It all came out at the same time, where I was able to have access to more music videos that I was at the time, and yeah, just the information of what certain artists were about and who were they about.
And like, did that get you to want to start creating your own music, or was it more like you were still like a fan of it and like as the high school years kick in and whatnot?
At the time, I was still a fan of it. It wasn't until elementary that I realized, okay, I would like to rap. I would like to know how to form a 16 bar, or even how to create a certain flow where people could remember me for being a certain creator.
And how do you get into that? Like, what, were you like working with other people, or was it kind of like more of a quiet thing? You're doing it, just kind of watching and trying it out.
I was more into like watching some of my peers doing it, because I had a friend, you probably know him by the name of Tagans. We
Yes,
went
sir.
to Yeah, we went to elementary and high school together. And yeah, I remember one thing that really struck with me is that I had the Ludacris album, and then I was listening to it for a whole week, or probably more than a week. I went to school, I sent it, I gave him, I just borrowed him the copy. He's like, okay, I'm gonna give it back to you tomorrow. He came back the next day, he knew the whole album by heart. I was like, there's no way I could compete with what he's doing. So I was able to, I was just able to watch him from close and know that, okay, what he's doing is going somewhere if he keeps that consistency. Once once I saw that he was taking it a lot more serious, then I would say I started not necessarily following his path, but supporting him in a way where, okay, if he has a group, an idea of anything that happens with individuals who are working in the industry, I would be down with it. And that's when I took part in one of his first group. Well, the first group we created was Black Gloves, and I was one of the members.
That's dope. What's it like making music back then? How are you all finding beats? Like, what's that process like? Because it's nothing like that today. Today, it's easy peasy lemon squeezy.
It was completely different, to be honest. I was not necessarily aware of who was making those plays, but I knew that our producer, which was Ski, DG Ski, shout outs to Ski. He's been doing music for a while, and what he used to do was he pretty much modeled every single known producer in the states in a way where he could apply what they had going on, but in a different level, more of a local level. Once he got the gyms, pretty much the idea of how things were to be done in order to produce a song or whatnot, that's when it's like, okay, he gave us a few gems here and there, like, hey, I think this is the best way to write a 16. This is the best way to write a hook. and we just learned from him. And the crazy thing is that he was the youngest in the group. I think he was still like 12 or 11, and we were like 14, 13.
It's still wild
So
that, like, when you think about it, right, that you're so young in a rap group trying to pop off some stuff like that, right? Like, just think about it in the context of how many people start at like 24. You know what I mean? Like, some people have been putting in work, is all I'm trying to say there.
yeah, absolutely, man.
So did y'all end up like releasing music at that point, or was it more just like, or did you perform? Like, how far did you guys push that?
Yes, we actually did release a lot of music. One of our first songs was Still NDG on Still DRE beat, and I had a verse on it. Tegan's had a verse on it. Ski had a verse on it, and TJ Heights, retiree, shout out to him, he had a verse on it too. Once we got that out of the window, a lot of people started to hear about our name because we used to call ourselves Black Gloves. And what inspired that thought was simply the day we were all in the studio, we were all at Ski's house, and we had black gloves. People were like, "Oh shoot!" Well, not people actually. The people in the room in the house were like, "Oh, you guys are all wearing black gloves. That's interesting." And it was around the winter time. And I think Tegan's came up with the name, or even Ski, one or the other, and we ran with it.
And so after that like phase of being with Black Gloves, right? So you guys run that for a while, and then what kind of happens after that? What's like the next evolution for you?
Now, once we formed Black Gloves, uh, we had we were four out. Tegan's, myself, TJ. Yeah, we were four at the beginning. That's when we had a few other members who had joined, and at that time, I moved out of NDG. That's when we still had that connection going on, but I realized I wasn't necessarily going to take the music thing serious. I saw it more as a phase. And one day actually, that blew my mind. I realized, okay, you know what? I should be more than a rapper. Is obviously when I used to take 100 takes per verse. Another day too was when I saw that Ski and I had a song together, and it was my song. I sent him the song. I sent him the record via Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, or MSN. It was MSN at that time. He sent me that verse back in less than 2 hours, and he out rapped me on that song. That's when I was like, you know what, man? I've always known something about me. I like to cheer for the underdog. I like to see whether that person is doing some sort of, like, you could say better, but in a way where like they're shining in their own way. But that makes you realize that, shoot, I like what this person is doing. That's when I took the back seat and officially made it clear in my mind that, okay, you know what? Any artist or any creative I can encounter, I would like to invest in their art. I would like to invest in their project and whatnot.
Yeah, a city definitely benefits from people like you.
Appreciate it, man. It's
Um,
crazy.
I mean, I've heard a couple of interesting things you've done over the last decade that I didn't even know about until other people talked about you. So I was like fascinated. Like, okay, you did a cipher at one point, and I was like, say word. Like, because I basically had started my own version of what you were doing on Twitch. Like, right, I had no idea you had done it, and then I think Serenity was on, and she used to participate in it, and she was like breaking down your whole concept and shit. I'm like, say fucking word, this dude's like on it. That's like fucking wild. So it's like, I know you got some like crazy shit in your journey that like you've done like things I don't think people are aware of, like this kind of whole side of life, the event coordination, this the building up an ecosystem behind other people. So like when I say like we benefit from people like you, it's a real thing.
Man, I appreciate it for real.